Okay, I'm going to start off here before introducing who's here. I'm going to say golf doesn't just reveal ability, it exposes belief. And for players chasing to the next level, belief might be the only thing keeping the dream alive. After saying that, I want to introduce Chris Crisologo, you are a professional golfer, my friend.
Yes, I am.
And I'd like to thank you so much for coming out and being on Steve Tees Off here, brought to you by riversidegolf.ca. And Ken Poirier and the fine fellows down at riversidegolf.ca have made this possible. But I want to establish the theme of this and really taking to the grind and balancing results and resilience, talent with tenacity, and golf being the ultimate test of character. I wrote this down just today. I hand wrote it down. You can tell I did, and that's why I'm reading it, because I love it, because it is. And without further ado, Chris Crisologo, you are a Richmond guy,
Yes.
Richmond born and bred.
Yes.
You went to SFU, and what year did you turn pro?
I turned pro in the fall of 2019.
Okay. Explain that process.
So the whole process for me, I've been lucky enough to be a part of Golf Canada and their program for the last few years, dating back to 2018, just after I graduated university. And the whole process was trying to create a way to find the best opportunity to turn pro at.
Mm-hmm.
So it's whether developing on the amateur side or turning pro and developing on the pro side. And for me at the time, staying amateur until 2019, a year after I graduated, was the best possible route for me. So I stayed a whole year of amateur golf, played the whole year, was fortunate enough to play the Canadian Open in 2018 and 19, which gave me the experience and the ability to be like, okay, I believe that I can do this. I can turn pro. And then decided to turn pro for the Vancouver Open. And then I got a start in Montreal on the PGA Tour Canada through a Golf Canada start. And that kind of kickstarted my pro career. Unfortunately, it was halted by COVID and everything else in between. But that was the decision to turn pro after playing a year of amateur golf and elite amateur golf and getting the results. I felt confident enough to turn pro and take my game to the next level.
Okay. So you started off, like you started in junior, like let's just go through your starting at a very young age. You played multiple sports.
Yes. So I grew up playing baseball. Elementary and high school, I played basketball, did track, probably could have been a sprinter. But the main part actually was basketball in high school. I played in grade 8, 9, 10, then got a concussion. And decided
playing basketball
because I'm not the tallest of guys out there.
Uh-huh.
So I started on the Vancouver College basketball team in JV, and then I got a concussion and said it probably wasn't for me because I'm a little too small for that. So I turned a lot into golf after that, but I basically played a whole lot of I was a multi-sport athlete growing up.
So what precipitated your interest in golf? What brought that? Like,
I think it was more of the competitive nature of it, and it was always in the background. So it was always baseball. I played hockey a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Basketball was a sport that was always there. It was always in the background, and I always played it through the summer. So growing up with like the Junior Linkster Tour and Harry White and
mm-hmm.
the people putting effort into the junior tournaments back then, it just allowed a nice fundamental way to start off and learn how to be competitive and learn how to play tournaments, learn how golf and the rules work,
Mm-hmm.
the small things like that. But it was always in the background. And like I said, it wasn't until grade 10 where I decided, I think there's an opportunity more in golf than there is in other sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how I started going through the whole process of finding a university and everything else in between.
Explain you had a relationship with, and Harry White's name keeps on coming up in every, when I was talking to, Brad Ewart,
Yes.
You know, AJ.
Yes.
And Harry White's name keeps on coming up all the time. Explain your relationship with Harry White.
Well, the first time we met Harry, I don't even remember it because I was probably around 7 years old at the time. It was so long ago now. And he had the flyers turn up, and my dad and my mom were like, okay, if you're going to play golf, get you into tournaments and see if that's an opportunity for you to just, play golf and play a sport that you can learn from. And the flyer is out at, I think, the now Savage Creek driving range. They took the flyers and said, we'll sign you up for these tournaments. I didn't want to do it. I didn't know what was going on at the time. And, I'm a pretty shy kid, so I didn't really want to go about it. But getting to know Harry, and for whatever reason, he saw something in my potential. So at the time, there was the Junior World Tournament in San Diego. And he held qualifiers for his tour to play tournaments into that tournament for the younger kids. So anyone under the age of 12. And for whatever reason, either he didn't have any players to send at that time, or if it was just by chance it was me that actually showed potential, he sent me down there to San Diego. And my parents and we had no idea what was going on. But that experience in itself kind of shone a light of, this can be something really cool someday. This is an opportunity. It can, you're learning a whole lot of different things here and there, even the travel. Because my parents didn't have a whole lot of money growing up. So we actually drove down to San Diego and we went and played the tournament. I didn't play very well, but it was kind of cool to be around the atmosphere.
How old were you?
8.
8. 8. You drive down to San Diego and you're playing in a tournament.
Yes. I think it was 8 or maybe 10. But whatever year that was, it was in that range where we had no idea what was really happening at that time and what would it really grow into. And so after that, we look back and you're like, okay, who actually ended up winning that tournament in the older age groups? Because they split the age groups in under 8, 9, 10. So I think the 15 to 17-year-old division, I think it was Jason Day who won that year in San Diego. So it was just, it's almost surreal to think back and see that's where it kind of all started. This is where your chase to be the best player you can possibly be became.
And you've got what's the big thing, and I can speak for this personally. The difference when the earlier you can start to play tournament golf, the better, and because you start to understand what it's like, because it's a completely different game when you're playing tournament golf, and you're not playing with your buddies or your dad or whatever it is.
For sure, and I think even just the competitive nature of it and being able to understand the small rules that you can work your way around too. All of that ties into starting early, and the more experience you gain from playing these tournaments, even now as a pro, the more experience you gain, the better you'll be in the future. You'll come up with new ideas or new ways to deal with certain situations on the golf course and have that ability to look back and be like, okay, this happened to me in this situation before. How am I going to be different to do it in this next upcoming situation coming up? So that's, there's so many funky things that happen in the golf world. You never really know what comes up, and you can only really rely on your experience to get you through it.
Because it is so you played, we're jumping ahead here, but I want to, you played the junior circuit here. What was it called at that time?
It was the Junior Linkster Tour.
The Junior Linkster Tour. Yes. Okay. And then you're starting to be, obviously you must be a good golfer in order, it's a meritocracy. Like if you're crappy, you're not going to keep on going, ascending those levels.
And for sure, with that, I think the Junior Worlds and the U.S. Kids tournaments that they have down in the U.S., the international events are the ones that all the juniors aspire to go to. So for me, getting a little bit of taste of that at such a young age, I wanted to be there every single time. I didn't qualify for so many years going into it. I think I qualified maybe 3 years or 4 years after that. So I played when I was like 12 and then again when I was 17. But those are the times when you're trying to develop your game and become a better player. That's what pushes you to be better. So like you said, it was a meritocracy. And in order to get to those spots, you had to qualify. You're not just randomly chosen to be in that position. So that's where that part came from, where the competitiveness and being able to qualify through. And it's the same process in pro golf as well, right? So
the other issue is accessibility. Okay. You like the we were talking, we just released a Ship of Fools podcast, and it was about soccer and FIFA and the World Cup, and with a fellow who is very involved in the soccer community, and he was talking about accessibility to soccer pitches and how in South America, Latin America, they have they're the size of a basketball court, and they put turf down, and the kids are just going and playing. And I'm saying that because it's analogous largely to golf too. It's about accessibility. And you're being in Richmond, golf is not a poor man's sport. You have to have money to play it, but you have to have accessibility to it too. You played out of, where did you play, out of Marine?
So Marine. Harry actually got me introduced into the club and got me admitted as a special junior member at the time. I think I was only 10, and Marine Drive junior membership starts at 12 years old. So I think the accessibility of it, especially at that time with Marine, the junior rates were low enough for my parents to afford, and it was a place to basically put me out in the summer and be like, you're here, we don't even have to look after you, we don't need babysitting, we don't need to babysit you. So I was just out there on the golf course all the way through the summer, just being able to find and play golf all the way through. And I think that's the nice part about at that time with Harry, was his tournaments were affordable. It gave kids an opportunity who wouldn't necessarily be able to even now compared to back then, because they were just so affordable. The only problem was finding golf clubs, but you always just cut down golf clubs, find people to do that. And that's what we did as my parents did. We just cut down golf clubs and went on our way. So I think it's a little bit of a shift nowadays with it, but I think you did a podcast recently about the indoor simulators and how great they are. And I was telling some of my friends, well, if I had kids, I'd be bringing them indoor simulators all the time, because you don't want to be spending however many dollars for buckets of balls on a driving range.
1,000%.
And so that's why I think it's going to be shifting into that, and shifting to that in the near future.
Well, you have this isn't the first time that I've said this. Like you also have I come from Manitoba, and in Winnipeg there's a golf dome, and there's an Indian player that made the tour, and he practiced in that golf dome in Winnipeg. He's out of Mississauga now, but and largely watched YouTube videos. Okay, well, that just shows you how you can piece it together. Okay, I've hit balls in that dome. It's not pleasant either, unless it's nicer now. But the simulated golf is, you will get better just by reps. Like you will. Like it's a funny thing. Like Ben Hogan said, this is a Ben Hogan quote. The funny thing about I think about luck is, the more I practice, the luckier I get. And the more you practice, golf is a game that the more you practice, the luckier you will get.
Yes,
you will.
For sure.
It's amazing, isn't it? But the thing is that you have to have accessibility to the practice facility. Like I in the winter times here in the lower mainland of British Columbia, what would you rather do? Go indoors and hit like a Titleist Pro V1 or a rock out at a driving range?
Exactly.
And like and the thing is that it's simulated golf. You've done it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not real. Like it's not golf. Like you're not on a golf court, but it is pretty darn close. It's pretty neat.
It's one of the closest things you'll get to inside without having to be outside.
Yeah.
And, obviously there's countless hours of me on the driving range because we didn't have simulators indoors. Well, you had probably a bed frame up or something, or a towel draped over a rug
or a tarp
inside, and you're just hanging balls into it.
Yeah.
But you don't get the feedback you would compared to nowadays with the indoor simulators.
Oh, for sure. For sure. You can identify right away with what you're doing wrong. So now so in this process, when were you identified by Golf Canada? Like, when did Golf Canada say?
I think with the tournaments and the amateur tournaments that it's all posted on, the World Amateur Golf Ranking.
Mm-hmm.
And for me at the time in 2017, I came 4th at the Canadian Am. And that year they gave me a call. Derek Ingram, our head coach that's currently at the time, gave me a call and said, you were really close to being selected on the team for this year into next year. If you have a few more results for the following year, you have a good opportunity. And I was fortunate enough at that time that there weren't a whole lot of golfers developing, or university players developing at the time, I feel, at that time. And on top of that, my playing accomplishments kind of stood for itself, playing at SFU and all the tournaments I was able to compete in and medal in. So that's where it kind of all started from and stemmed from. And fortunately, I had a good year that following year, my last year at SFU, and I got the call from them, and they're happy to have me on the team.
And what did the team, being on the Canadian golf team, what did that entail? What does that entail? About that?
It basically provides you a structure in the sense of, when you're just a regular casual golfer growing up, you have no idea how the process is to turn pro. There's obviously Q School involved. There's different things, and you can do that. You can go sign up for Q School, turn pro, and you're just a pro golfer. But their structure and their program develop you. How can I be a pro at the very best level that I can be, basically? So they develop you in a way where, okay, this is, amateur golf. This is how we're going to develop this is how your game's going to develop into the pro side. How you're pro, you have the Canadian Tour. Now you have the Canadian Tour, and then, it's the PGA Tour Americas, developmental tour for the PGA Tour. How can we develop your game to get you to the Korn Ferry Tour? How can we get your game to develop you to the PGA Tour? And there's a set, I wouldn't say structure or plan, but there's an idea of, a framework of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish at that time. And that's what, for me, was the biggest guideline of turning pro is, okay, I trust my coaches, and they can tell me that I'm going to turn pro at this time. And I did so. And that's kind of the nice part of being with the program, and kind of the advice that I can give with players coming up is, one, you have to get results and feel good about your game, feel confident that you can turn pro. And the confidence you turn pro, you can go do it on the big stages too.
Mm-hmm. So you turned pro, you said, what is it, 2017? 2019. Okay. And so can't say the word, the decision was made in 2019.
Yes.
And you played your first pro event here in Vancouver?
Yes, I did. I think I came second in the Vancouver Open, I believe. But leading all up into it, like I said, with the Golf Canada program, going into it, I've already played 4 US Ams. I've played in the Canadian Am. I played in the Canadian Open, fortunately enough, a couple of times. And actually in 2017, I got my first taste of pro golf. I finished 20th at the PGA Tour Canada event that year as an amateur. So all that kind of culminated into, okay, I can turn pro now. This is when I'm going to turn pro. This is when I feel comfortable that I've done everything that I can possibly do on the amateur side. I can feel like I have the confidence to turn pro.
So when you make that decision, and these may be stupid questions, and I apologize, Chris, if they are, but there are no stupid questions. When you make that decision, there's the monetary aspect of things. Do you immediately have to go and find sponsors?
Immediately, yes. Being linked with the Golf Canada program, fortunately, allowed me to kind of establish myself in the community and find some sponsors that way. A lot of the time it is also coming from the golf club and people and some of them understand the grind of what it takes to be what it takes to get to the PGA Tour, but a majority of people don't.
No,
They don't. They don't. They don't understand the whole process of it and how much money it actually entails to be a pro golfer.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like for me, I've been on a PGA Tour sanctioned tour for the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on the Forum Tour in 2021, the PGA Tour Canada 22 and 23, and then I had Korn Ferry status actually in 23, and then I play on the PGA Tour Americas 24 and 25 this year. So I've had status on those tours, but what amazes me is the amount that we're getting paid out. And see, if you look at the developmental tours and how the structure is, I compare like the PGA Tour Americas to like a AA team, if you're following in like baseball terms.
Yeah.
And then you look at the Korn Ferry Tour, it's like a AAA team. And then obviously the big leagues is the PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
But in the sense of how much we're losing on the lower level tours, if you make a cut on the PGA Tour Americas, you're not really making your money back for travel. And you have to pay out of pocket to do so.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the structure of it. And it's like a give and take in a sense. And then when you think of it as a whole, how many members there are of any of the PGA Tours. They have about 200 members on the PGA Tour, about 200 on the Korn Ferry Tour, and about 200 some odd members on the PGA Tour Americas. So if you structure that down, how many golfers are there in the world? So out of all the golfers in the world, there's only 600 actual players that are members of the PGA Tour structure.
Mm-hmm.
How does it, the lower level tours not get paid as the same as someone playing AA baseball?
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see in that sense, and that's what I try to tell people, the structure of it and how we're paying out of our pocket to make so minimal for an opportunity to get to the PGA Tour.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
has it now. This isn't a scripted question or anything, but have you thought about going and playing in Asia or
There definitely has been. For me, it was more of the funding. It's always been the funding of trying to figure out. Obviously, there's guys out there that play the European Tour, DP Tour qualifiers. For me, it's either one or the other at this time.
Mm-hmm.
If I had the luxury, I would have tried to play all three of them. Because my family, they're from the Philippines. Yeah. So I have a place to stay in Asia if I ever did play in the Asian Tour. Mm-hmm. I know people out in Europe. If I played one of the tours out there, it's all just the funding and the availability of it. And for me, I just know the structure of Canada and North America very well. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, obviously the competition's tougher, I feel. Mm-hmm. But in doing so, I know if I can make myself better and if I can be the best version of myself, I can compete on these tours out here. Mm-hmm. But would it be easier to go out to Europe? Probably. And would it be more, you'd get more stories out of it. You get more experiences. And like I said, it's all the experiences that matter, that add up at the end. Mm-hmm. So yes, there's a little bit of doubt that I should be playing or should have tried to play the Asian Tour qualifier or even the European Tour qualifier. But right now it's up to the funding. Explain
this to me. This is another question here. You do have PGA Tour America's status,
yes,
right? And that tour starts in what?
I think they just released their schedule. I think it's in March.
I believe. Yeah. And that starts in South America.
Yes.
To begin with.
So our first event's in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Yes. We play the Olympic course down in Rio, which is a phenomenal golf course. I've been able to play it the last couple of years, and it's one of my favorite places to go to, and the golf course is spectacular.
So now this is so in the whole process, when you're on that tour, when you're part of that tour, are there any other mini tours that exist that you could be playing in and qualifying for? Like it's not there's a question in there somewhere. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So on the South American side, there aren't a whole lot. Obviously, there's a language barrier and everything else in between. So when the North American guys go down there, the English speakers, when we go down there, we're just solely there for business. It's we go week to week, go down to Brazil, we're going to stay at this place. We know everything out there. We're not going anywhere else. We're not going to go venture and try and play a different tournament. But when you come up here, up to Canada, even the US, there are many tours that kind of sprinkle in, and you can play in as the tour kind of rotates around. So out in Quebec or even Ontario, they got the East Coast Pro Tour, and they kind of follow the PGA Tour Americas around, where they do the Monday qualifier, and if you don't get through, you can play the Tuesday, Wednesday on a different course that they're holding a tournament on, and you have an opportunity to keep playing. So there are opportunities like that. Even down on the Corn Ferry Tour, they'll have one of the tours that down there follows the Monday qualifiers, and you can play Tuesday to Thursday or something like that, and
win some money.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
So another stupid question here. Okay, what's the entry fee? Like, what do you have to shell out to?
So depending on obviously the tour itself. So let's start with the actual PGA Tour and PGA Tour Americas. The PGA Tour Americas, they have an entry fee of $250, or it might be $300 US each week. The Corn Ferry Tour actually doesn't have an entry fee, and the PGA Tour doesn't have an entry fee as well.
Okay.
The mini tour stuff, depending on how it is, I know there was one that recently finished maybe a few weeks back. You can go anywhere from $800 to $1,500 USD as an entry fee.
Just to enter.
And your return on it's probably around somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000. So you're there competing, and you're not really there to make money in a sense when you look at
all your expenses.
When you look at the expenses and the return of it on your investment.
Yeah. So, and one of the things, and I've said this before on the other podcasts, talking about when the Fortnet was here, and I was there on a Tuesday morning picking up my media passes at 7:30 in the morning. And I did see guys brushing their teeth in the parking lot. I did. Okay. Now, I'm not saying they slept in their car. Okay. But and there was this, and I repeat it ad nauseum. I have, you see the dew rising up from the driving range, and I go, man, and it's cold. It's not real warm.
It was cold that week.
It wasn't real warm. And I'm going, you got to be committed. And it hit me, it really hit me hard. And I was going, and then I got back. And when I got back to the office, I looked up the prize money, and I was going, wow, that's commitment, man. That's a grind. You got to be you really have to be committed.
For sure. And if you look at kind of even the money list on our tour, if you finish anywhere inside the top 100, you'd hope you'd be making your money back on both either entry fees or just the cost of traveling down. But there really isn't that opportunity up here. And on the PGA Tour Americas, and on the Corn Ferry, it's a little better, obviously higher levels, higher stakes. But, it's definitely a little bit of a grind on the pro side in that sense.
And you, it is a grind. There's no other, I don't think there's a better adjective than that. It's a grind. And when you start talking about that, and I know you went to qualifying school in New Jersey just recently.
Yeah.
And that there's a fee involved in going to that too.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, there is.
And there's 3 levels.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Level 1, level 2, and then level 3. And at level 3, when you get to level 3, so it's a finite amount. There's what is there, 5 tour cards?
There's 5 PGA Tour cards, and then I think 40 Corn Ferry cards after that. So
that's in the last stage.
In the last stage. So the whole qualifying tour process, and they're starting up this week actually. Their final stage.
Yeah.
So first stage, they actually have a pre-qualifying stage. So anyone who hasn't had status or hasn't gone through to first stage in the last 2 years have to go through a pre-qualifying stage to get into the actual tournament.
Okay.
And so first stage, there's about 70 to 80 guys, and in that site, probably about 17 to 19 in ties get through. There's 13 sites of first stage sites throughout the U.S. And then in second stage, there's 5 sites. Some are same number, somewhere between 70 to 80 guys in each site. And I think this week it was 14 and 15 in ties got through. And then final stage is where you get the Corn Ferry card. So everyone who makes the final stage gets a Corn Ferry card. But I know AJ got through second stage, which is amazing for him. He's got a Corn Ferry card locked up, and he's playing for his Corn Ferry starts this coming week. But look at the site that he was at, and I think Monday Q posted something out about it, and he said there's a group of guys. There's 5 guys listed down. They're all played on the PGA Tour. Their career earnings were over $150 million, all in that second stage site. All right now, currently just outside the cut line. And I think there's a couple of guys that got through and a couple guys that didn't. But that's what you're competing against. And it's amazing to see some guys 40 years old playing, qualifying cool to get their PGA Tour card again. Yeah. And that equates to,
and they've whittled it down now. The PGA, it's only 100, the top 100.
Yes.
Okay. They've on the Champions Tour, they've made accommodation. They've changed that too, because they've said that there's too many European players making the Champions Tour, because I think it's, 60 players or 75 players, something like that for the Champions Tour. But there's too many Europeans that were qualifying for it, and they want more American players. PGA guys that have won 6-7 times on the tour aren't able to play on the Champions Tour, which is 50 years and up.
Yeah.
And I was just going, okay, well, now you're making it even harder.
Exactly. So the whole process, it changes every year. So for me, I think I still have status on the PGA Tour Americas, is from what I've told, but they actually haven't released anything out on that end. They're still worried about kind of the structure of how the PGA Tour works and the numbers that fall into the Corn Ferry starts in their categories. So there's always development every single year that changes, and it's definitely something to keep an eye on as pro golf progresses, especially with live golf. And the way I talk about it, you see why live golf was so intriguing for a lot of players.
I can see it. You see it. And actually, this past weekend or this past week, I don't know if you watched the press conference with Tiger Woods, and they were talking about how many events they were going to have. I am of the belief that they're going to shrink it down to like 26 or 28 events, and they're all going to be marquee events. And you're not going to have, however, I don't know how many PGA Tour events there were this past year, 48 or whatever, but they're going to knock it down to 26 or 28, and the prize money is just going to be ridiculously high. It gets back to it being the purest form of a meritocracy. If you're not top notch, man,
for sure,
you're done.
Exactly.
So having said that, Chris, so what keeps you going, my friend? What is that?
I think it's my belief that I still have more to give into the golf game, or my golf game. So if I feel like I'm still improving in a sense. So the last few years, let's take 2021, for example. I played on the Forum Tour. It was a little different. It was during COVID. So there were definitely rules that I had to follow. So certain things, like I couldn't get my own routines in. There are times where they closed the driving range off because they had to close the driving range off because of just the amount of people that was on site. So after learning that, I went into 22 saying, okay, this is a different year. Right. So I think it's a little bit of mind games with it, where it's, 22, it's a different year. I can get my routines. I can figure out what I have to work on with my game. That year I finished 55th on the points list or something like that on the PGA Tour Canada. And then I got a Corn Ferry card that year, at the end of that year for 23. So 23, I was learning the process of both the Corn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour Canada. So I put a lot of Monday qualifiers in, tried to do the whole Monday qualifier circuit, try to get onto the Corn Ferry Tour. Unfortunately for me, in that sense, it was a little much it was a little taxing on travel, mentally. Wasn't in a good headspace to play well. So I learned that from 23 into 24. So there's different things you build on after every year. And for me, if I can continue to believe that I can get better and there is more there, that's where I keep you keep pushing to to strive to be on the PGA Tour one day. Obviously, they've made a little adjustments to be a little. They've kind of dwindled the numbers down a little bit, but if my game's good, I can still compete against anyone out there. And I feel like I've shown that at times. The 2018 Canadian Open. There's some things involved in that tournament in itself too, that I was sitting at T19 after the cut line going into the weekend. And so small things like that give you belief that I can still be there. And so that's where it kind of stems from.
So golf truly is a metaphor for life. There's no question about it. And there comes a time in everyone's, and I consider myself a hack. Like that's what I am. I'm a hack. But you hit that one shot that keeps you coming back.
And that's exactly what we say every single time. You hit that one shot, it would probably be on 17 or 18, and you're like, I'm back.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly it. And never mind the shank or whatever else happened there. You never, you do remember.
You do remember.
You do remember those. You do remember those. But have you ever sat back and questioned the path that you've chosen?
Oh, all the time. All the time. And I still probably do it right now too. But it's something that not a whole lot of people get to appreciate and understand too. You don't get
an experience.
Right? An experience. There's not a lot of people who have been in on a high level. They haven't seen what it's like on the PGA Tour. They haven't seen what it's like on the Corn Ferry Tour. They haven't experienced the travel and everything else in between. They're like, oh, it must be really cool to go to so and so place. I'm like, no, it's on business. It's really neat to be able to do that. But also the golf courses we had to play are phenomenal too. So everything about it is kind of an experience of itself. There's excitement there. And that's what, I feel is a little different on the pro side, is if you have that excitement that's still there, you should keep pursuing it, because, it's, if you don't have it, it's like, why are you there? Yeah.
And you obviously, you've got talent. That's the thing is that there's a bar, right?
I wouldn't say talent per se.
What would you call it?
I would put it work. There's work involved, right? You put the hours in.
You can have talent. That's right. Yeah. You have talent, but if you don't work, you don't. Exactly. It doesn't show.
Exactly.
It won't show. It's if you were to say, like, to a what advice, and then we'll get into another topic here, but we'll talk about what is the biggest misconception of being a professional golfer that people don't understand?
I would say the amount of hours put in. And it's funny to see like how other sports do it. And you see the hours that like a Messi or a Ronaldo or a LeBron James puts into that. But there's so finite movements that they have. In golf, you have to work on the body, you work on your diet, you do all that, what they're doing. But, for us, I got to work on putting, I got to work on chipping, I got to work on bunker play, I got to work on irons, and I got to work on the driver. And the mental part too. So if you take all that into one, there's not enough hours in the day if I wanted to work on my putter. So, and it's funny when you say, you bring yourself back, you forget about all the bad shots. And if you look at your game as a whole, there's always that one part missing where it's like, you're trying to find excellence. You're trying to find perfection. Perfection in golf right now is to make a birdie on every hole, Vision 54. No one's done that. And then if someone does do that, it's even harder to do it again, right? You shoot 59. A guy will shoot 59, and then, you never know what's going to come out the next day. It's not going to be a 59 the next day. And so that's the misconception, is the amount of hours that you have to stay on top of your game in order to execute the next day. Because you can be executing today, doesn't mean you're going to be executing tomorrow. Yeah.
And one of I had Matt Paulsenberg on here, and we were talking, and it was just, I think it was after the Fortinet, and I was talking about how the 17th hole at Morgan Creek was playing as a par 4. okay, which is a 520-yard par four. And I was going, that's ridiculous. You know, like I've played that golf course, and like I've had shots at getting home in two, but I'm stomping on it and I'm bailing right. And he says to me, it's just a number, man.
It definitely is.
It's just a number. That's all it is. Okay, if I can get a 3 on that hole, it's just a number. And I took that mentality into the next couple of rounds, and I actually played better because I stopped thinking about the number.
Exactly.
Okay, and so when you're on, and I never thought about it that way. It's just a goddamn number. That's all it is. And if someone can, you know, and you're right in saying that golf, all of those things you have to put together. You can go, you know, in any sport, you can practice something, but there's so many things in golf that you have to practice, and and they all have to be firing in unison too. You know, it's like everything has to come together. It's like, you know, Brad talking about AJ's 59 in Victoria. You know, that's a big deal.
Yes.
That's a big honking deal, man. Like, that's a big deal. And it's just, it lined up. Things lined up. And he's talking about how he knew that, and he wrote a beautiful piece that we had published about just like the dad talking about that, like that, how special that was. That's a big deal. It is. But everything came together. And he still didn't win the tournament. You know what I mean? Like, and then the next week, it couldn't sink a putt. You know, like, and you go, that's golf.
Exactly.
That is golf.
It's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be sunshine.
And
roses all the way through. It's not, and you're going to get your troubles, and that's a little bit in part with like the Q school thing too. It's like, if you play well at the right time and you get the right opportunities, you're there. And so that there's a little mix of both, and it's obviously a growing pain at times too. But it's a journey that I've chosen and I've enjoyed for the last few years too, though.
Now let's talk about SFU. Now let's get on to let's get on to the SFU leaving the NCAA Division II and the future of golf in BC here.
Well, it's obviously disappointing to see them leave the NCAA. There's obviously a close connection for both of us, being part of the program, and you know, them cutting golf too is also a step in the wrong direction, in my opinion. You know, golf is one of the sports that it's growing. There's a lot of people that want to be here.
Well, and we're in the Lower Mainland of BC too.
Exactly.
Like I don't know. Like,
so it's definitely, you know, it's heartbreaking to see how they've kind of gone about their structure and what their decisions moving forward from it. And obviously disappointing is to know that there won't be a golf program there. There aren't going to be golfers coming in. There's, you know, you get a lot of junior golfers coming up that wanted to go to SFU because it's in the NCAA, because you get Canadian university education. You get an education in Canada. And that was a little selling point for me when I was on Golf Canada. I'm a Canadian born and bred, played on a Canadian university. And that's the uniqueness of it. And if you take that uniqueness away, there really isn't much there. So it's obviously going to be interesting to see how the times moving forward with how their process is and what they understand the university and what their forward thinking is. But at the time, it doesn't seem as forward as it should be. Yeah,
I don't, you know, and I actually, in conjunction with this, I was reading McGill is cutting their track and field program too, and they're one of the only post-secondary institutions that has an actual made for indoor facility, and they're cutting that program.
Yeah, and I think Canadian sports as a whole, unless it's like hockey or something like that, where everyone can kind of come around.
Even hockey at the collegiate level, at the post-secondary level, we have junior hockey, we have major junior hockey, which is the feeder system to the NHL. We don't have it's a mucked up system that we have. We don't put emphasis on sports.
Exactly.
we used to, back when I went to university in the 80s at the University of Manitoba, and we used to take like the volleyball, basketball, football, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. It's become less of a big deal. A big deal.
For sure.
And being out here in British Columbia, and you're right, SFU was unique in that they played NCAA. Yeah, it was Division II, but I can tell, I can talk specifically to my daughter's experience. She got to got to play ball down the West Coast. They got to go to Alabama. They got to go to Hawaii and play. They got exposure to playing at that level. Yeah. And it's a whole different level. And now without that, we don't have that. We really don't.
No, and it's unfortunate to see that happen. And like you said, I just feel like with the sports side and the athletic side in Canada, there isn't much there. You look at a team that does it, even like the Canucks or the Whitecaps, the differences in fan bases of what happens when a team's playing well and a team's not playing well. But we don't have that community in the athletics program, I feel, to support these up-and-comers coming up and hopefully doing something great for either the country, the city, or even for themselves. There isn't really a whole lot of support system there. I will say, though, there is one university, or it's I think it's a college out in Windsor. I got to stay with the AD out there actually this year. And if you take a look at St. Clair College out in Windsor, and the kind of the facilities that they have, and they're trying to make sports kind of similar to what the US is and how big it's going to be. That's the structure that everyone in Canada should be looking at, in my opinion. But there isn't a whole lot of those facilities that want to be brought up by any of the universities in Canada at all. And so that's the one university or kind of college that I've seen that's actually really good. And obviously, because I stayed at his place, Jay out there in Windsor, I'll give him a shout out.
Sure.
But, that's what you're looking for in a university. And I was impressed by what they have down there. And you should take a look at it. And
I will for sure. What advice would you give now, because of the obviously you're an alumni of SFU, but what advice, and you don't truly, until you're like 15, 16, 17 years old, you don't, and you're not, you might be sure in your mind, but you're not really sure that you have that, that's something. What advice would you give a 16-year-old who was thinking of, like, they're golfing, they're good golfers, they're doing well junior, would you just say, well, you know what, you better start looking for an American university to go to?
I would, especially with the SFU program not being, or it won't be a program in the future. Do I wish I went to an American school? Looking back at it and how everything's been done, yes. Now.
No.
But the experiences and the development that I was brought up with SFU, and that's what made me into a golfer I am today. And that's what made me into the person I am today. All those kind of, made me pursue pro golf. It gave me the opportunity to do so. And so as a junior kind of coming up, I would say look at the best opportunity to develop your game, whether it be a D1 school, even a D2 school, a D3 school, or even a JUCO to start off. Where's the best place that's going to give you a chance to play every single day? And that's what SFU was for me, at least at that time.
So now let's get on and to your current season, the upcoming season. You'd made mention that you don't even know what your status is with the PGA Tour America.
No, not yet. So the talk through the grapevines, obviously your top 80 guys have full status, and I kind of made a mess of 16 and 17 at Morgan Creek to get bumped outside the top 80, unfortunately. So I think I'm sitting at 83rd, but last year, guys who are 80 to 100 or 81 to 100 had status on that tour, and they got into the South America stretch. So right now it's looking at I'll get some sort of status. I'm not sure if I'll get any starts going into it with the structure that they're trying to do with the scheduling. They've made some changes. They have a few more events. Our tour championship isn't in Canada anymore. It's in, I think it's in the Dominican or something like that. So they've made some adjustments there. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. Obviously, I missed out on first stage this year on Corn Ferry's tour status. So for me, my goal at the end of the year is to earn a Corn Ferry card next year. So in doing so, it's finding the right amount of tournaments to play in to peak for the right time. And so my learning point from this year was I might have been a little, I played a lot of tournaments. I made a lot of cuts on the PGA Tour Canada or the PGA Tour Americas. Okay. This is probably the most cuts I've made in a single year. Did I do well on the weekends? No. Can I adjust what I've done? Yes. So that's my thought process behind it. Obviously, like you said, the funding and everything else involved in it plays a factor into it. But I think Corn Ferry Q School at the end of the year is kind of the main goal.
Do you have do you have a plan B?
Well, I have some plan Bs in the works.
Okay.
So obviously with my kind of knowledge and pedigree that I have, I'd like to give back to the community too at some capacity. So right now, like you said, with the indoor places, I'm trying to work with Central Golf in Richmond. They have TrackMan.io as well. Uh-huh. So I'm trying to work with them and be more of a behind the scenes type of thing where I'm helping their kind of juniors or even players develop and learn new skills and try and help them, guide them towards being a better player and maybe even pro golf. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my thoughts on a plan B. But I haven't really thought of a plan B.
You're still focused on you're gonna there's really, it boils down to here in British Columbia from on the male side, it's you and AJ.
Well, you got Stu McDonald out there on the Corn Ferry Tour, so he's
he's there.
He's there. But on the men's side right now, coming up, and that's a disappointing part in from my perspective, there isn't a whole lot of up and comers who are going to turn pro or who are going to give a kick at the can, as they say. So that's kind of the part too. Is
what do you attribute that to? And one of the and I'll put a preface to that question because I'm a prairie boy. Had I grown up out here, I would have played a hell of a lot more golf. I would have, because the season's longer. As it was when I did move out here in 1994, I used to golf with super value bags on my out at Swanee in the pouring rain, gale force winds, like a complete idiot. Now I'm a fair weather golfer, man. I turned into a wuss here. But the thing is that if there was ever a place that you think that we should have a real good feeder system of up and coming golfers, you would think it would be here in the lower mainland of British Columbia.
I think if you look at the structure of how they bring players up through kind of developing players and how you want them to, you let the player decide if they want to turn pro or not. But a lot of the players are scared to turn pro because there just isn't a lot of development on that side from that perspective, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. Where for me and AJ, we grew up in the Golf Canada program. We knew, same with Stu, same with Jared Dutois. And all those guys came up with the program and they knew how to improve on their games to get to the next level, to maintain status on the PGA Tour Canada or the PGA Tour Americas, and to maintain status on the Corn Ferry Tour. And there is that sense of knowing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like right now in BC, if I didn't have that luxury of with Derek Ingram and our head coach there, and even Louis Melanson, who's my coach now, if there wasn't any of that confidence, there isn't a reason for me to turn pro. Mm-hmm. So that's what I can probably help with the future generation, is knowing how, when to turn pro, what the process is, where you want to be playing, and how you want to be playing at the certain time. You want to be peaking for Q School. Mm-hmm. You want to be peaking for the right time to get through, so you have an opportunity to experience a tour. Mm-hmm. Because there isn't really a whole lot. Obviously, you got the Vancouver Golf Tour, and you got all that. You have the local tours. Yeah. But to the level of having to book your own, you book your own hotels, book your own airfares, book your own rental cars to travel down there. Not many people get that experience. Mm-hmm. And the more people that can kind of understand it, and the more people get value and see what happens, that in itself is what you need to be telling the other people coming up or new players coming up, is hopefully you can do it. And that's the part too.
Well, you're the now I'll in closing off here, like what I'll ask for this, like two pieces of advice, okay, for someone, a junior golfer who has a BC, from BC obviously, but who's dreaming big. Two pieces of advice.
Well, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to, when you believe in yourself, you want to improve every day, whether it be on the golf course, off the golf course. You're trying to improve every single day. That's it. And not worry about everything else in between. If you can figure out how to improve on yourself every day, that's all you need.
Mm-hmm. And the one thing that has what has come through with me beginning doing Steve Tees Off the podcast here is I've forgotten how nice the golf people are. Like, you're a nice kid. I call you a kid. Okay. You're a kid. You're a nice kid. And everyone that I've had sit there, they're good people. And the thing about golf is that it does produce good people. Mm-hmm. And that's, I learned a lot in the golf course when I was a kid. I did. Mm-hmm. What not to do.
Exactly.
What was acceptable, what was unacceptable.
Proper etiquette.
Please and thank you.
Yes.
Don't be an asshole. Things like that. That was, and that's not being prudish or anything. That's just being a good human being, being a good person. And I've been, that's one of the things, and my wife has said this too about the guests that have come through here, and they're young. We had Jackson Jacob come through here. We had Justin Bjornsson come through here. Even Jared Simonoff from House of Golf. Mm-hmm. Very well spoken, very and a good person, good people. And that's the one thing that people do forget about golf, is that it's a game of etiquette. There are rules, and if they're not rules, they're things that you just shouldn't do. Okay, and it's evident with the pedigree of the individuals that I've been fortunate enough to talk to, and you, Chris, have been one of them.
Thank you.
And I thank you so much for coming out.
No, thanks for having me on
and taking the time. I really appreciate it. And like a shout out. You're on Instagram. You're on are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok. Not yet.
Not yet.
No, I don't do any of those videos.
You don't do any of those?
I might post some swing videos or something in the near future, but right now, not really. So it's on Instagram right now.
Cool. Very cool. Anything else you got to say?
No, thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you.
It's a small world, obviously.
It is.
You have your connection with Megan playing at SFU, and I was there at the same time, so...
That was funny.
It kind of came around full circle.
That was funny.
You followed me on Instagram, and I was like, oh, there's the connection.
Well, Chris, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Buddy. I appreciate
Thanks for having me.